Welcome to the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. I am here today with my beautiful sister, Sandra Trujillo. And today we're going to be talking about discipline and devotion on our spiritual path and in our Dharma, because I recognize another warrior sister when I see one. And Colombian too, and she's super disciplined and super devoted. And we recently just filmed a masterclass for her summit, Power, Sex, and Sacredness. And the link is in the comment section. So I definitely invite you to join us for that. But I just felt like I wanted her on the podcast because I love what she's doing. Our journeys are very parallel. We both have spent time like in the jungle doing crazy healings and like on these strict diets. And I know like she oil pulls like I do, and she does her morning. And we're just so devoted and dedicated to our path, our Dharma, everything. And I just wanted her on here as another light sharing on the journey. So welcome, Sandra. Introduce yourself. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and seeing me, sister. I love what you're doing. I love your message. So a little bit about me. I'm a psychospiritual embodiment and sensuality mentor. I love getting people incarnated, right? And in that, the work that we do is in making really good decisions. It's all about making clear decisions that are in alignment with the truth of who you are. And in that, we develop personality so that it can serve soul. Different than what we've been led to believe is the right way to lead life, right? Which is just like consume, accumulate. There's a greater driver of our ship, and we want to give it the reins, so a lot of my work is dedicated to exploring that, deepening within myself so that I can ignite and invite people to ignite that within themselves.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I feel like with anything in life, like being able to be really consistent, which requires discipline. And beyond that, like devotion for me is really like being so in service to what is the greatest good. It's like not about like what I want or my ego or selfish. It's like what is highest good, what serves highest love. Like I am in devotion, in service to that. And that's what helps us to stay disciplined and consistent. It's like that end goal, that reward that comes from that place of, I know this is for my highest and best good. So even if it's tough, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm doing it from this place of love and from this place of honor and gratitude. And so how do you like, of course, like that's my feeling of how I think of devotion and how it's gotten me through moments of like fasting for 5 days and only drinking like water and rose. And so, because I just finished a dieta here in the Sacred Valley. And so how about you? Like when you think of your devotion and discipline, what do you source it from?
Yeah. In my world, discipline is another word for devotion. The word discipline actually comes from the root word discipulos in Latin, which means follower of Yeshua, follower of Jesus Christ. So in essence, to be a follower of what you love. So devotion is simply to find out what it is that you love and give your life to that, right? For me, it's I have given myself over to the things that I know light me up, to the things that I understand that are in resonance with my spirit, which is the things that make you come alive. What's giving you joy? What's the thing that expands your presence to the fullness? And can you allow yourself to serve that? Right? Can you allow yourself to become a lover of that, to nurture it, to become a gardener? So in my world, I just see I'm a gardener. My devotional practice, my discipline, and how so many people witness that in me is just, I'm just gardening. I know that there is a God consciousness in all of us, and anything we give that light to grows. And so I'm just, loving, watering, giving presence to what I want to see grow, period. And that takes it out of how, I used to have a resistance to the word discipline. I never thought of myself as discipline until I did the research, and I was like, oh, it's just devotion. In my world, it's just devotion. My job is to continue to open the channel so that consciousness, that God energy can use me as a conduit for its creations. And we know that it wants to create through me when I'm fully alive, So it's becoming aware that when you make a claim for what you want to become, because you got lit up, doesn't mean that it's easier. It doesn't get easier. It means, okay, now get ready, because you're in deep communion now, in deep communion. And it's like, if you ask God to give you whatever it is you want, right? You ask God to give you strength. And it's like, what is it going to give you? Is it going to give you strength, or is it going to give you opportunities to practice strength? You ask for courage. What's it going to give you? Courage or opportunities to practice courage? And with that relationship in mind, you start to understand that the resistance, the blocks, the things that might distract you from having discipline and clarity of focus are just the offerings from divinity to help you be that instead of want that,
Yeah, I love everything you're saying, because I feel so much of my journey has also been like the purification process, because I truly believe that we are here to live our ultimate potential, which I agree with you. I'm all about. We're meant to incarnate into our body even more. And that being said, the body and the 3D realm is dense, and the spirit is light, right? And so I feel a way that helps us incarnate more is that purification. Purifying whatever toxins, purifying whatever karmas, purifying energies, ancestral patterns, energies of other people. And that act of purification, which can be through ritual, which can be through our practices, like health practices that we do every morning, what we eat, and that requires discipline. And I know for me, like, I love it. Like, even though it's like, what do you mean you're going to just drink water for 3 days? Like, yeah. And like, because you feel so good after. So there's like that delayed gratification. So for me, like, some of my favorites have, like, just doing this rose dieten, like fasting and just like communing with that high frequency plant of the rose to raise my frequency, right? And eating super clean. Like, I used to be like a super organic snob, and now like I try to do harmony, but I still choose like whatever's organic as possible, always drinking spring water as much as possible. And, I went through periods where I did different things. What have been some of your favorite, like, disciplined practices that you have felt have helped you incarnate, embody even more, as well as become like your highest frequency?
Yeah. I think what you're speaking about, and you said it there from a moment, is the development of harmony, right? We're speaking about the meeting place between our earthly nature and spirit. So it's in the heart. And, in the tree of life, Tiferet, right, is the heart. And this is the continuous work of making sure that whatever is draining my energy is cleansed. So same here. Like, what's my forgiveness practice to myself on a consistent basis, right? To myself and to others, what's draining my life force. It's a greater level of comprehension, of understanding for myself and others, is understanding that I have everything now, that I have everything I need. like really opening my eyes, the greater I, turning the lights on in there and saying, I am abundant. It's not something I'm chasing. I am abundant. And what are the things that help me see that on a consistent basis and expand my gratitude on there? And not gratitude as like just naming things, but real, my somatic gratitude on a consistent basis. And then is the continuous alignment of relationship with others and with myself. It's a continuous work. It's never like I got there, right? It's just like we go through the cycle again and again. We go through the cycle of that continuous balance, and knowing how human we are is what teaches unconditional love. Really what teaches unconditional love. And when we can love ourselves unconditionally, the side effect of that, it's like now it's just the side effect that I can love unconditionally, that I can give my love without just like what's for me, but what's for us, and how can we create like greater bonds with people, and how can I allow myself to be in a position where I can serve at a higher level so that everyone around me can have that ignition, right? So that I can serve at my community in I see you, right? We're here, we're on the same level. There's no me better than you. I don't want to be no one's teacher or no one's guru, even though funny enough, that's what I do. Right? I'm a teacher. And at the same time, like we all are. So in the frequency of coming into greater understanding with that, I am raw and I have my seasons and I have moments where I lose, I go dark and I have all these colors that it's not just beautiful all the time. And I bounce back quickly because that's my work, right? And so I'm still very human. I'm still like, I still, forget so often. And yet the work is like a continuous relationship with bouncing back to harmony as much as possible, as fast as possible. That's to me it's my greatest work. It's the greatest focus of my life.
Yeah, so beautiful. And because what you're really speaking to is like the energy hygiene in all relations. And that's another form of like discipline and purification. I have found, like, for me, Rose has been a really beautiful teacher and reminding, like, literally one of my main takeaways that I put on my post when I got out of my dieta was like one of her top 3 things. One was like, if I'm going to say something or do something, first ask, does this create harmony? And if it doesn't, like, do not speak it, do not say it. What can you say instead? Or is it better just to keep silence? So much can also be said from the space of that compassion and unconditional love, because when we have compassion, it's like nothing can stick. We can't get triggered. We see like everyone is human. Everyone is going through their challenges. Everyone is going through whatever they're going through. And so for me, like that anchor, the greatest work is that return to love, that being loving presence. Can we have compassion for everyone, even if we feel super hurt by what someone did to us, right? Like all of this, it's like a way of relating in right relation. And what I have found is like the second wisdom that she shared with me is like starve the triggers. Starve the trigger. Like if you're triggered, if you're emotional, it's like, do not speak in that moment. Do not respond from that space. Like if you can witness it with love and compassion, that's going to completely transform relationships. Also, like the Native American proverb, it's like we have a good wolf and a bad wolf on our shoulder. Which one gets stronger? The one we feed. So if you feed the triggers, that reactivity is going to continue to, maybe I'm going to go as far as to say like poison aspects of our life. Whereas when we starve it and give that energy to the presence, like you talked about, the love, the compassion, the harmony, we're going to see that blossom in all of our relationships. Of course, it's a practice. Of course, I've responded in triggers. Of course, like the humanness is there, but it's that like constant checking of ourselves. And for me, like meditation has been like the best practice and actual relating. I like that, like going to the gym and being able to be that loving presence. For me, it's been meditation. What about for you?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So much for me of like coming back to the center, because we're speaking about that, right? Like we're coming back to the center, harmony, love, unconditional love, like the place of compassion. It's all what mystics throughout the world have named as the seat of our soul, right? We come into the center of our consciousness, which in the body, if you put your arms up, is in between your heart and your will, right? Your heart and your solar plexus. So rooting ourselves back in the center again and again and again allows us, right, to understand that there is a part of me that wants to be right, and there is a part that is the teacher of that greater consciousness is silence. And so oftentimes we just talk a lot. We just talk way too much, and that takes us out of our center, because the thinking mind is part of our ego. The thinking mind wants to create pattern from something that was, from an experience we already had. So I made a decision about defending or attacking way before you speak. So it's like a loop, right? So what you're saying is so great. For me, what works is moving my energy, really allowing myself, whether it's through meditation, through chanting, through doing primal movement, which I love to guide, and I love dancing, and painting, just getting colors, like putting it down, doing morning pages, whatever it is, so that I can move my energy, because your energy is trapped wherever there's attachment, right? And with blame, and when we go into those triggers, which is like we're attacking or we're blaming, um, it puts us in the frequency of helplessness. And so if you're still holding on to blame or guilt for yourself or with someone else, that is literally you holding on to something that's keeping your energy from flowing. It's if you see yourself as a conduit, whatever you're gripping, attaching, blaming, unforgiving, it's blocking the channel of energy to flow through you. So the easier thing to do is not to avoid it in positive vibes only, like, no, nothing happened. I'm just gonna, just, it's not that big of a deal. It's not acknowledging what happened, how you're feeling, understanding that you are not your thoughts, and definitely you are not your emotions. These are things that move through you. These are patterns that were uploaded in your system, really early on. There's a greater presence here, and really to know that the presence that can observe the thoughts, that can observe the emotions, and create the space for them to move through, so that they don't clog the system, right? You want to be you want to have a Wi-Fi connection to your center. You want to have a open conduit system. So really thinking about like what's your looking at all these practices of moving your emotions, your energy that it needs to move is a for me, in a consistent in a daily thing. It's a hygiene process. You call it purification, I call it hygiene. What do I need today, which feels different every day. And in that way, I create a container, a time, place, and something that is a time. I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes. I'm going to dance for an hour. I'm going to write 3 pages. I create the container that allows me to move the energy, and the really playing with both, being in harmony of that, using the yang to create the structure, and using the yin to allow myself to release and get empty. So I do that. That's my process.
Yeah, for sure. I also call it energy hygiene, but a lot of the energy hygiene that I refer to is really about purifying and cleansing our energy of other frequencies that are not ours. Just like we brush our teeth every day, just like we take a shower, it's like we have to do that maintenance for our energy field as well. And so I like to use different kind of meditation practices, also using like the physical allies like Palo Santo or sage or different ways. Also, like the more we ingest through skin, body, sight, high vibrational things, we bring our energy into that alignment. So like what we watch is so important. And there's been times like I've even caught myself like, unintentionally scrolling and then like feeling badly. And then I'm like, wait,
Totally.
what did I just watch? Like, even though our algorithms are curated, it's fascinating how like when we watch something, like we connect to someone's energy. And so for me, there's like a constant, like I do my best, like not to consume, like to be the creator and not the consumer. because I do feel like my energy is so sensitive the more I've purified. And I'm really pristine as best as I can be to like I won't even watch scary movies or like movies that have violence and stuff, because I feel like I've purified so much, and what we focus on expands. Like I welcome whatever I watch into my life eventually. And so what has been, and I think that that's something I've observed a lot of creators and even clients have shared, or people have taken like breaks from social media because they've had a hard time maybe with the discipline and the control of like not just getting mindlessly lost, and to really use that time for creation and to be the one that's sharing your gift with the world versus like getting lost in these rabbit holes. And so yeah, so like what are your thoughts on more on, because I think you kind of mentioned about creating versus, I don't know if you mentioned consumerism or not. You did.
Yeah,
You
I did. Well, I think about it as, my main program is the Conscious Creator Experience. And I talk about art life, creating our life like a canvas. And so much of that is, an artist gets a canvas, and what's the first thing he do? He does. He discriminates against what he doesn't want, right? What materials he doesn't want. He's getting choosy and picky, and he is curating, bringing things from different parts of his experience to create something that has never been created before. And so in that process, it's like nothing in my painting is accidental. Nothing in my expression is just out of nowhere. That I have the attention to detail of who I am becoming. At the end of the day, we might have goals, we might have and they're important, right? It's good to know where I'm going, but like there's a greater order. It's like God, my favorite acronym for God is good orderly direction, right? There's a greater order here. There's a greater gnosis here, and I'm just serving it. So for me to worry about accumulation and consumption, and it's like, and yeah, I want to expand and I want to experience all the earthly richness. Why not? Like, of course I do, and I will, and I do, right? I do every day, and at the same time, it's like there's a greater uh, order that's guiding my life. So it really doesn't matter where I'm getting to. What matters is who I'm becoming on the journey there, how I show up how I show up day by day, with the curation and the attention to what is my environment, exterior, interior, the environment of the people that I'm bringing into my life, the conversations that I'm having, right? From like the water that I'm drinking, which is, it seems like the smallest thing is the biggest thing, the water that you're drinking, because water is life. And consciousness moves like water, and when we start to pay attention to the things that seem the simplest or the less important, and we realize those are the elementals. How much sun are you getting, right? What's the rhythm of your life? Or do you get up in the morning and are you just like, in yesterday's thoughts and yesterday's experience, and then you got to rush to all the things, and what is that melody sounding like? When you are an artist of your own life, you create the rhythm, the music of your life, with there's space in between all your commitments, where you're not busy but fully optimized, when you're loving what you're doing because you can, because you get to, you choose to. It's not things you have to do, and it's not right. It's that energy. It's a different energy. And so it really doesn't matter what we are doing. What matters is what's the energy behind all that you are doing. It's like the energy that we create with precedes our outcomes, right? And that energy must be the energy of expansion and truth and joy. Another name for harmony, other names for God, right? It's like if we can continue to come back to like, I love where I am, right? I love where I am. I have everything I need, and understand that you do. And especially everybody that's called to these conversations, you do. Like, look at the rest. There's parts of the world that can never even have an opportunity to listen to something when they're learning, because they're in deep survival mode. And we that have spaciousness in our life, we have a greater responsibility, which is turn the lights on, right? Like, come to the center and do your best to stay there. And if you fall off, like, no shame, just shake it off and come back again, right? Those dark nights of the soul are the greatest teachers. They're opportunity for our spirit to strengthen, right? And it's important to have them, right? Sometimes I like to think about it. What do you think about this? That sometimes those descents that we go into, like, whoa, the void, right? Into like, oh God, yeah, or like you can call it the void or the unknown, or in religious wording, you could probably say death. They're necessary. They're the necessary steps for our ascension, so that we can be more descended in full spirit, instead of just like trying to get out of the body, but like really trying to love earth with all our spirit, be embodied. What do you think about that?
Well, I call them like dismantlings,
Yeah.
undoings. So many dark nights of the soul, so many dismantlings where like my ego wanted something. And then it was like, nope, you're not getting that because there's a bigger plan. But in the moment, it's like, oh, but I'm devastated. I really wanted that. And then it's like, no, there's something greater for you. And in those moments, I have always been so humbled. I have always remembered what's most important, like, especially like the true wealth is the love and the harmony, and not like what's in your bank account. And that spaciousness, like survival is a choice. Like, it actually has nothing to do with how much money is in someone's bank account. It's really a way of being and thinking. And you can live the most abundant life that is because of experiences, because of what you've done in your life, who you've helped. And I find that the dark nights of the soul, I like deepen, and the spaciousness gets bigger, and the capacity to really prioritize gets better too. Because when you're kind of like what feels like the bottom and the blank slate, then you can create from truth. Not because you think you should do this and everyone else. No, because when you have those moments of, okay, blank slate, it's like you can really follow its highest truth, what your heart wants. It's not like the society program or society standards or what your family thinks or any of that. Because I find dark nights of the soul, it like, it strips us from all of the and the crap, and we really get to look at like, what is so important to me. And so for me, like, sometimes when I go through them now too, I'm like, again, what do you mean? I thought I arrived. And then it's like my ego, right? And yeah, like they're painful, but they are a great gift. And I feel like every time I've had them, I'm like, if I just died right now, like, I know I have still lived an amazing life, because if it gets so strong. And a lot of times they're when I'm in the jungle or I'm in dieta, because it's like I do like strip everything and are living in like conditions that are not as luxurious. And you're really just communing with the earth and people and the moment. And so more and more, it's just been about like living in the moment, stripping away whatever is not really highest truth, and like really following love and whatever that path, like for me, dharmically, like I know for like when I'm doing my work and it's thriving and I'm sharing away, like that's the overflow. But I always have to do the work on me first. And then there it's like, okay, let me do now year 2 of my podcast and have guests and like weave this web of other creators where we're all like supporting each other and connecting and amplifying each other. And yeah, so I mean, they're painful, the dark nights of the soul, but they serve their purpose.
Yeah.
And they're to be revered and honored. So
yeah, that's the gift of ceremony, right? The ceremony, you go into deep mystery. You just never know. You if you don't surrender, you suffer. Period. So it's the art of surrendering, of giving up our will for thy will, and trust, and the development of trust that the moment I grip, I'm in pain. But even if I am in deep sorrow and in a deep purification, which often does not look pretty, in ceremonial work, often it does not look pretty. We're purging, we're crying, we're pooping, we're doing all the things that, that literally are purifying the system and it's like life contained in one experience, you know. And the teachings of working with the medicine are really giving us the opportunity to develop reverence for the greater force that is trying to move through this. And unless we can be in these moments of pain, which are necessary for true awakening, for our consciousness to wake up, to have a second awakening, that it's not just me to my name and my things that I have to do, but that in a consistent basis all the time I can wake up to the fact that I'm a soul, and I have a body, and wow, I smell and I see and I taste and I can touch and I can love and I can feel emotions. And that is incredible. That is a gift, right? If we want to expand our consciousness, we don't just open our eyes and look to the sky and just like that. No, we nourish the earth, we nourish our body, we nourish our roots, right? It's like the saying that the deeper the roots, the higher the branches. So what we're doing, what you're speaking about, is that people that have heard the calling of being initiators for people that are on the path, or are wanting to be in a greater integrity with themselves. That does not make it easier. That's not just like, no, it means like, okay, leaders go first, you go, okay, go. Because there's a different there, and it's felt. It really is felt when you find somebody that's teaching out of memorized information than somebody that's teaching from their embodied wisdom, because they have gone through a consistent purification. And people that are more sensitive, we're more sensitive, we can understand the subtle, and we work with energy as another language. And that means that I'm picking up other people's stuff, right? And I can see through, and that can be very triggering to my ego, right? And it can be very confusing. And then so now I'm like, also like, continuing to have that protection mechanism, that clearing mechanism, that knowing that there is a necessity to protect my energy to a higher level. The sensibility has been something that for many of us was shamed. Oh, you're so sensitive. You're so sensitive. When in reality, it's probably one of the greatest gifts we have. The path of yoga is to become more and more sensitized to what's the real reality, to what's actually happening there. And for us to know what's the truth of what's happening there, the first thing we want to do is wake up to what's our illusion, what's not happening. But yet we see it as it is continuously happening, because it was the pattern that was ingrained. And those moments where we have the breakage of our ego, which are the nights of the soul, the dark nights of the soul, when our ego breaks, and we can remember that it's probably coming up because we're ready to see past an illusion, right? We're ready to finally say, okay, enough of this. I'm going to make a new pattern. And I'm going to make a new pattern, not just with an idea, but with the way that I be in life, with the way that I show up in life. Enough of this, right? So it really calls on a greater holy fire from within us to say, like, okay, this is 10x now. Like, this is me plus greater presence here.
I love you so much. And I feel like we can go on, and we are going to continue this conversation inside of your Power, Sex, and Sacredness Summit that's coming up.
Yeah.
And if you want to share a little plug about that, as well as your work, we're going to include all the links in the comment section, as well as, whatever you feel called to share, where people can find you.
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on Instagram at sandratru.com. My summit is a women's summit. I have been given the homework of cultivating the conversation that many of us are hush-hush about, which is power, which is sex and sacredness. What is in our confusion, and how do they come into wholeness and integration, instead of being things that we deem wrong or bad, or simply don't look at or give enough presence or want to grow because we are afraid of being rejected, alienated, because it is necessary for us women to take up space from a place of integrity and wholeness, knowing that we can be all that we are. and that the real way to feel our message moving through us is to be in integrity with our message. Are we living it? Are we saying it? Are we feeling it? Are we in connection with our values, with our decisions? And so I've put together an incredible group of women leaders, teachers, mentors, women I admire, to help us have these conversations. Nikki's going to be speaking about empowerment and what it means to be in greater levels of that for your life, and so that we can show up like with reverence for our fire, like we're here. And so I'm really excited, and I would love for you, for anybody that's interested to follow that, and you can find that information at my website, sandratruth.com. I also do women's masterminds, 6 months and year-long masterminds, and I work with people, both men and women, privately in the Conscious Creator Experience, which is a deep dive into being set in our soul set, and art creation, art life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And inside the bonus content, Sandra's going to guide us through a process to support us in, it's like clearing away the obstacles, supporting us in that greater discipline and devotion, right?
Yeah, just connecting us to higher vision. I think that's really important, right? So that oftentimes the distractions are real when we are claiming who we are here to be. And it's good to use all our psychological functions, like our thinking, our feeling, our emotions, to help us prepare for all of that, so that we can be in our strength and in our focus when we are moving up the mountain.
Yeah. So come for more inside the bonus content. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Sandra. This is so beautiful. I'm so grateful that we're connected and friends and ever growing on this path together. And we'll see you soon. Thank you for being here. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content, and remember, every Monday the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the ascension path with me and for doing this great work.